Let's get straight to it. If you've got a growing family and you're looking for an SUV, the number of options can be baffling. One choice you could consider is this model, the Ford Escape, which goes a bit unnoticed in the busy medium SUV segment, but I'm going to tell you why it could be the right SUV for you. With nearly 20 different vehicles in the mid-size SUV segment to choose from, the Ford Escape has its work cut out for it to stand out from the pack. But there are elements of this car that give it some real appeal against its rivals. Consider this, the Escape Trend Diesel is one of the most affordable all-wheel drive SUVs in this segment. Pricing starts at $38,490 plus on-road costs. Yep, less than 40 grand for a diesel, auto, all-wheel drive SUV. And that's one of its biggest selling points. And Ford has a servicing program that's better than many of its mainstream competitors. The brand guarantees the price it will cost you to keep it in ship shape over the life of the car, provided you keep going back to the Ford dealership. What that means is that you can budget your yearly expenses to include servicing fees. Maintenance is required every 12 months or 15,000 Ks, so you should be able to figure out how that'll affect your costs every year. And we all know how important that can be, particularly if you have kids. School fees, rates, electricity, it all adds up, and having any peace of mind is a benefit. Another selling point for the Escape is its safety equipment. Standard is a rear-view camera with parking guidelines, rear parking sensors, and 7 airbags, including a driver's knee bag. But there's an optional safety pack that really adds some extra bang for your buck. Oh wait, it should stop you from banging into anything. The technology pack includes an autonomous emergency braking system that works up to 50 k's an hour, adaptive cruise control with forward collision alert, lane keeping assist and lane departure warning systems, and auto high beam headlights. You also get rear cross traffic alert and blind spot monitoring. That safety kit comes at an option price of $1,300, so you could spend $50 a week for half a year on takeaway for the family, or you could potentially save their lives. It's a pretty easy call really, although the kids will be upset about missing out on KFC every week. There are other models in the segment with similar levels of safety tech, but not at this price level. Usually you have to go shopping for a flagship SUV to get all that safety stuff, and that can mean shopping in the $50,000 price bracket. Just like the Kuga that came before it, the Escape is a good thing to drive, and that's exactly what we've come to expect from this brand. Unless you're really sold on a diesel version, maybe have a look at a petrol version of the Escape, because the diesel can be a little bit lazy, particularly low in the rev range. If you're just tootling around town on light throttle, you might notice that the gearbox is pretty keen to go for the highest gear possible and keep the revs low, which can be a little bit frustrating, but it's certainly not a deal breaker. When you put your foot down a little bit harder, the diesel does offer good response, although it is a touch noisy. Being a Ford, it's quite fun to drive. The steering is direct and accurate, and the chassis is set up so it feels a little bit firmer than most SUVs through corners. That means it'll sit flat as you're going through bends. It's quite involving to drive. The offside of that is that it can be a little bit firm over bumps. Plus, the Sync 3 media system has inbuilt sat-nav with traffic updates, digital radio, Bluetooth phone and audio streaming, and the latest smartphone connectivity. We said at the start that if you've got a growing family, the options are plentiful, and unfortunately for the Escape, it has one of the smaller boots in the class. But that doesn't mean you can't fit stuff in. If your children are babies or toddlers, the boot's big enough for their bags and a pram. Or if they're a bit older, you can fit a push bike or two in the boot. And speaking of youngsters, the Escape has 2 ISOFIX child seat attachment points, which you can't get in the Focus sedan and hatch that sit below it. And as well as that, there are 3 top tether hooks. The space in the back seat is suitable for kids or big teenagers or even adults, though it's not as cavernous as some other SUVs in this class. Look, it may not be the absolute benchmark in the class, but at this price point, the Escape makes a lot of sense, particularly if you add that extra safety kit. And even if you do, the list price is still below 40 grand, so you're getting a lot of family car for your money.